The Rams are interested in signing running back Kyren Williams to a contract extension. Why Davante Adams is the perfect fit for the Rams. All that more coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do me a huge favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, and we are back, all the way back, the great Travis Rogers, the People's Champ. You can follow him at Travis Rogers. You can follow me at DMAC_LA. And today we've got a jam-packed show. We're talking more Davante Adams. Davante was on Travis's show a few weeks ago. We'll get some takeaways from that. We'll talk about his fit in this Rams offense and why I think he's the perfect fit, the best receiver the Rams could have picked up based on who was available. Also, an extension for Kyren Williams. Sean McVay talks about the tush push. He doesn't think it's football. And McVay talks about why the Rams signed Tutu Atwell back to the team. Now, that's all coming up. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Travis, so you had Davante Adams on your show a few weeks ago. I thought he was great. I love the story about Matthew Stafford and kind of how they kind of had some competition with each other and the takeaways that he had, but with Megatron and it just feels like Davante Adams is in the right team, on the right team in the perfect time of his career. We know that it's about winning a Super Bowl. It's about being with a quarterback that he can thrive with. I think that he's a perfect fit alongside Puka Nacua. He gives Matthew Stafford that top 10 receiver, that premium receiver that I think this Rams offense needs to take themselves to the next level. So I love having Davante Adams on this team, but what did you really take away from having him on your show?
Well, I want to go back to one of the things you just mentioned right there, DMAC, because I think it's a really good point. I don't want to say that Davante Adams has never played with an elite quarterback, because obviously he has. He played with Aaron Rodgers for a long time, and Aaron Rodgers is going to walk straight into the Hall of Fame. So this is his first shot with a really good quarterback, because it isn't. But think about what we've talked about with Matthew Stafford in the past. Think about the record-breaking season of Calvin Johnson. Think about the record-breaking season of Cooper Kupp. Think about the record-breaking season of Puka Nacua more recently. What do all those things have in common? It's Matthew Stafford. And then put together what you're talking about, which is Davante Adams has not been on a good team in a little bit. I still think he's got a lot left in the tank, but it's not like he's got another 6 or 7 years of high-level football left. We're getting closer to the end than we are to the beginning. This is a window that is open for the Rams. I think they are incredibly hungry. I think they can feel it. I think Adams knows that this is his last really good shot to go win a Super Bowl somewhere. And I think it's the perfect player at the perfect time. And with all due respect to Cooper Kupp, who, I don't need to qualify how much everybody here at Locked On Rams loves Cooper Kupp. We do. Davante Adams is a better player than he is right now. He's just a better wide receiver than Cooper Kupp is today. And I think that what that brings to Nacua, like you're talking about, what that brings to Sean McVay, it's a threat that we really have not seen the Rams have in a while. It's nothing but upside. And then, like you're talking about, when he came on the show with DeMarco and myself a week or so ago, you could just tell there's a level of cool, of chill, of confidence, of let's get after this that is refreshing and fun and exciting. There's some swagger there that the Rams, I don't want to say they don't have it, because I think the Rams have a ton of confidence, but it's a different type of swagger, and I'm here for it. I think it's going to be incredibly exciting. And of course, he talked about his order at Taco Bell when he came on with us, so that was very exciting as well.
Yeah, wait, what was the order at Taco Bell again?
It was burritos supremes and a mango slushy something or other. But I asked him, because as you know, I'm a food person and I love talking about the minute details of food. And he just had right off the top of his head exactly what he gets at Taco Bell. So I was deeply impressed. He didn't have to search for his regular order. He knew it off the top of his head.
I just hope he didn't bring that Del Taco nonsense to him. I just really hope he didn't do that.
We've been over this. I will not stand Del Taco slander on Locked On Rams. I am a fan. I love their fries, those crinkle cut fries, but I'll do some Taco Bell too.
I'll admit they have better burgers than Taco Bell has, just because Taco Bell doesn't serve burgers. Other than that, Taco Bell clears easily. Give me the Crunchwrap Supreme, Burrito Supreme. The nacho fries are legit. But one thing that really stood out to me when he was on your show too was just talking about the importance of playing with a great quarterback. He mentioned being at a couple places, being with the Packers and how great it was, and then being with the Raiders and Jets and kind of differences. And of course, he did reunite with Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, but that was a different version of Aaron Rodgers than he was when he was with the Packers. Still an average to an above average quarterback, but not the MVP, not the A-Rod that was the discount double check, best quarterback in the NFL level ever, Aaron Rodgers. But he did say that having one of the best quarterbacks to play in the game, throwing the ball after another, is something that he says he's lucky to have, that he was lucky that he keeps having these quarterbacks excited for this opportunity. I think it's almost like, okay, he realizes he could have followed Aaron Rodgers and kind of been a package deal anywhere he went potentially, but he sees the opportunity to play with an organization like the Rams. And look, the Packers, they're a very consistent organization, right? One that you're going to get those playoff opportunities. I think he wanted to be back in a more structured organization.
Yeah.
It's more butt up that has their stuff together, so to speak. And I think that the year with the Jets, I think is going to make him appreciate being with this Rams team, because let's not forget, if you look at the contract, yes, it's listed as a 2-year, $46 million deal. Essentially, it all breaks down to it being a 1-year, $20 million deal. He said he wants to finish his career with the Rams. So I think that is a perfect opportunity for the Rams to get the best version of Davante Adams.
I think a couple of things here. Number one, like you said, this is him realizing, I've been other places where it doesn't work. And just the Raiders, whatever. The Raiders are, they shoot themselves in the foot year after year. They just don't make a lot of decisions that make a lot of sense. He was with a bad quarterback in Vegas. So, tried to recapture whatever magic it might have been in New York. The Jets are a tire fire, and it didn't work. So he understands what it means to be surrounded by adults, professionals, competent, quarterbacks, coaches, offensive line. So I think that's something that he's going to cherish and something that he's going to appreciate and be able to put in his own spin on all of these things. The other part of it is the Rams have become one of those teams that if you want a shot, you can come here and get a pretty good look. There's no guarantee that the Rams are going to go to the Super Bowl. There's no guarantee that they're going to win 12 games or anything like that. But what the guarantee is the coach knows what he's doing. The coach will put you in a position to be at your best. The quarterback, assuming health, will be able to put the ball where the ball needs to be. He's not going to do crazy stuff. He's not going to leave you out to get killed like Derek Carr was doing with Davante Adams. So I think they've done that thing that I think you and me and Rams fans and sports fans really, I know you and I talk about the Dodgers a lot when we're not on this pod, but I think the Dodgers are the perfect example of this. They're the place that people want to be. It just works. I will go here because if it's just left up to talent and me, I can make that happen. I don't need to hope that the coach doesn't do something dumb. I don't need to hope that they, get tight-fisted with money and let people go in disputes and it's noisy and messy. The Rams just don't do that. And I think that's part of the reason that Davante Adams is here.
For sure. It takes years to build yourself into a destination franchise. Even if you just throw money at players, but you haven't had a lot of success, you don't have a good coach, you don't have a good infrastructure, you're not going to get every single player that you want. But Davante Adams is a great example of you put in a decade plus of good football, of a quality organization, you can get guys like that. You mentioned Cooper Kupp, and look, it's interesting. We haven't really talked about the fact that he's in Seattle. That's going to be some revenge factor games for him. He's going to circle those Rams games. But yeah, I mean, there's really no comparison. I mean, when you look at where they're at this stage of their careers, and yes, anytime you sign a receiver that's over 30, you wonder, okay, when are they going to fall off the cliff? The thing is, Davante Adams is the one guy that has remained productive that you really don't have to worry about when it comes to consistency. He's had 5 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Kupp hasn't had one since 2021. He's only missed 3 games in the last 3 years. Kupp's missed 18. So you're going to get that consistency, durability, and I think as far as how they fit in this offense, you want to keep Puka Nacua moving around, right? You want to keep him, have that flexibility, have him moving around. I think Davante Adams is going to be that X all the time. For the majority of the time, you're going to see Puka Nacua there in that slot. But as you mentioned, yeah, the Dodgers getting Shohei Ohtani. You got the Lakers getting Luka Doncic, Davante Adams going to the Rams, the UCLA getting New Mexico transfer Donovan Dent for UCLA basketball. I mean, where would you rank those? Would you?
Well, I was surprised. I was surprised you waited as long as you did to bring up the Donovan Dent news. I thought that you might start the pod.
Yeah, actually, no, would.
Yeah, I thought that may be the A block for the Locked On Rams segment, but no, they look. Davante Adams is going to, again, this all presupposes health, which is the great wild card for everybody. He's going to be good. He's going to be better than Kupp. I'll put it to you this way, and then we can kind of move on to the next thing here. Is there a chance that Davante Adams is washed? I think the answer to that is no. Is he as good as he ever was? Maybe not, but is he washed? I think nobody would say that he is. Same question for Cooper Kupp. Answer might be yes. And I'm not saying that he is, but it's on the list of possibilities. That it just may be, the amount of games he's played, the style that he plays, it's just maybe not his time anymore. And that they upgraded that position the way that, and again, it feels lousy to say it like that about Kupp because he was such a great Ram, but they're better there today than they were before that deal.
100%. And speaking of the Rams getting better, could they retain talent? Could they extend Kyren Williams? Well, that's the talk right now. Also, Sean McVay talks about the tush push, and we'll talk a little Tutu. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd, and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. So getting tickets to that game, it shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be stressful. So that's why Game Time comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbelievable prices, right? So let's talk about that, right? Your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd, witnessing unforgettable moments. Had a chance to go to opening day at Dodger Stadium and see all the incredible festivities, and there really is nothing like being there, nothing like being in the ballpark and feeling all of those great moments. And getting the tickets has to be easy to do it. So you check the Game Time app, and there are amazing deals on unbelievable matchups that are always coming up. It's baseball season, basketball season, right? The playoffs are around the corner. The local Kings are in the NHL playoffs coming up here in a little bit. So why not go to Game Time, right? Lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time's going to credit you 110% of the difference. And with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, which is awesome, and the lowest price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDON NFL, for $20 off your first purchase. That's Locked On NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. Cannot thank you enough. And you should join that Everyday Listeners Club too. Just watch or listen to every single episode of Locked On Rams, and then you won't miss a thing about your favorite team. All right, Travis. So picking it up in the second segment here, the Ram general manager Les Sneed, he made some comments about Kyren Williams, and he said, quote, that he wants to engineer a long-term partnership with Williams, who is entering the last year of his rookie deal. The Rams took him in the 5th round in 2022. And he dealt injuries early on in his career, had a breakout year last season, leading the NFL with a 95.3 yards per game. And I think when you look at Kyren Williams, this is clearly a guy that brings an edge. He brings consistency to this position. He's probably going to be looking for a deal around $14 million per year, something in that ballpark. He hasn't had a long stretch of year-by-year consistency, and he has dealt with injuries.
Yep.
Really, you're looking at basically one full season. I mean, when you look at the injuries that he had last year, stuff he's dealt with, you're looking at one full season. He's had 2,443 yards, 14 touchdowns. That's top 3 in running backs in that stretch. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to extend him and what kind of contract they're going to give him. Because I don't think you're going to ever see a Todd Gurley-like contract again. And you did draft Blake Corum, but I do think they want him around. I just think that they want it at a sensible, realistic price.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in there, D-Mac. You know, you mentioned Todd Gurley a second ago, and they did pay Todd Gurley, but Todd Gurley deserved to be paid. Todd Gurley was an MVP-level football player in the NFL. Todd Gurley was, you know, maybe the best running back for a short period of time in the league. So you got to pay special prices, and I didn't have a huge problem with what they did with Gurley. I understand that it didn't work out ultimately in the long run, but that's okay. Kyren Williams isn't that. You know, and this is where it gets tough, and this is where it gets, you know, pretty cold-blooded and calculated, and you need to be a little methodical in this. He doesn't play a lot. When he plays, he's really, really good, but he's had trouble staying on the field, and I think that has to be factored in to the consideration. You mentioned that they drafted Blake Corum. I don't know if Blake Corum is as good as Kyren Williams. We haven't seen him enough to offer that opinion, but he might be. You know, if you have a running back that is elite, then I think you're going to have to pay elite prices. If you got a Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey or Derrick Henry, then sure, you got to go out there and do this thing. I don't think he's one of those guys. I think that could you get somebody that maybe isn't quite as good if you moved on? Yeah, maybe. But is it 80% of the production at 20% of the price? Then I think that's a win for you. I think that's the math that you have to figure out with what you're doing there. In a perfect world, you'd love to keep him because he's really good. But I think the decision that the Rams have to make is, do you keep him at a high price or at a premium price? If there's a price that the Rams are comfortable with, then great, keep him. He's a good football player. He's a smart football player. Let's hold on to the ball a little bit more, maybe moving forward. But it's not like I'm trying to shove the guy out the door. But if he digs his heels in and says, I need X amount of dollars to do it, no. This is an easy no for me unless I get what I want on the ownership side. That if it's Matthew Stafford, you're going to have to give a little bit. If it's an elite player like, Aaron Donald or Jalen Ramsey or some of these guys that we've seen come through here over the years, you're going to have to pay those guys because those guys are special guys. Kyren Williams has not demonstrated that he is at that level quite yet. So if he wants to make it sticky, he can. But if I were the Rams, I'd hold fast on whatever price in their mind is a good price. That's the price I'd insist on paying, or I'd move on.
Yeah, as you point out, they're going to have very different valuations of themselves and who Kyren Williams is, because the efficiency did go down last season. I mean, that was really what stood out in 2024 was those 95.3 yards per game. The efficiency, the success rate dropped in 2024 as well. He still finished with the seventh most rushing yards at 1,299, the fifth most rushing touchdowns in the league at 14. In the last two seasons, like I said, almost 25 yards and 14 touchdowns, and did get the Pro Bowl. That boosted his salary up to $5.35 million. But yeah, I think it's kind of okay. Is this Kyren Williams or is this our system? Is this Kyren Williams or is this our offensive line and our schemes? And how easy is it to find another Kyren Williams? I think it's impossible to find another Saquon Barkley, right? There's one Saquon Barkley in the world. Yep. There might be a couple Kyren Williams, but I do think that he's valuable to this team for sure. I think that he fits what this team does as far as just transitioning to the gap duo scheme, a little more physical. So I love me some Kyren Williams, but it's one thing to put your GM cap on and then put your player that wants to get the most money cap on, and you kind of have to find a in between there.
I don't think that Kyren Williams is doing anything wrong asking for as much money as he can. Yeah. If I were Kyren Williams, I'd be doing the exact same thing. But if I'm Les Sneed, Sean McVay, Tony Pastors, Kevin Demoff, the guys that are making these decisions, they found him in the fifth round. They've been really good at finding players at value. The reason that they can pay some other guys what they pay them is because they're really good at managing some of this other stuff later on. I would not, this is not a gotta have it. This is, I'd like to have it, but I don't gotta have it.
For sure. No doubt about it. Now, coming up next, Sean McVay breaks his silence on the Rams signing Tutu Atwell. Don't you love when people put that in the headlines? It's the most clickbait thing ever. He breaks his silence on why the Rams brought back Tutu Atwell. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Travis, so here in our third segment, talk a little more about a signing that came as a little more of a surprise than even Davante Adams this offseason, as the Rams bringing back Tutu Atwell on a 1-year deal worth $10 million, fully guaranteed. Now, Tutu did have his best individual season as a Ram last year, 42 catches, 562 yards. Those were both career highs. Half his yards coming during the weeks that Kupp and Nakua were hurt, but still, he's dynamic. He brings some speed. He brings that element. And Sean McVay talked about why the Rams decided to bring him back. He said, I think when you look at his body of work, when he's been able to play, especially in some of the times that he was playing when Cooper was on the IR, there was a lot of production. And if you project that over the course of 17 games, you just watch what he was able to do. He's maturing as a young man. I love the person, getting to know him. I think he's only getting better. He's 24 years old. I thought he really improved his route detail. For a smaller guy, he's got good catch radius. So I think the big takeaway there is you look at him projecting that over 17 games. Clearly, the move right now is to try to get him more involved in this Rams offense.
Yeah, look, if Sean McVay likes it, I love it. I will defer to Sean McVay on these things. If he's telling me that he's getting better at these things, then I will take that at Sean McVay's word. He would know better than I would. Sean McVay would know better than anyone. I'm just going to turn this into a question. Would you rather have DeMarcus Robinson or Tutu Atwell play 17 games for you next year? And to me, it's a no-brainer. To me, I would take DeMarcus Robinson 100 times out of 100, because how many times did you and I come in here on Monday morning, or did I go on the Rams postgame show on Sunday evening, Sunday afternoon, and talk about, wow, DeMarcus Robinson really had a day today with the Rams. DeMarcus Robinson got in the end zone. He caught a game-winning pass. He made some big plays, picked up some big first downs. It was maybe not every single week, but it was 4, 5, 6 times a season where we would have that conversation. How many times have we had that conversation about Tutu Atwell? Zero. And I get it. He's fast. I get it that he's doing a little bit better. And I feel like I'm always the one arguing against Tutu on this. I just at some point, I don't care what you might be. I care what you are. And what he has been so far has been kind of sort of mediocre or a little bit less than that. I don't like a guy that is a one-trick guy, kind of, just spread that field like that. But if I'll end where I started. If McVay likes it, that's cool. I'll go with him because he's the expert in these things. But the Tutu Atwell experience is completely lost on me.
Yeah, and look, we agree on a lot on this show, and I think this one is tough just because I think you brought in Davante Adams that will take opportunities that DeMarcus Robinson was getting where he was thriving kind of near the red zone. And you look at his size, kind of what he brings. I think that if you want a more dynamic offense, and as you said, Tutu has to prove it throughout the course of an entire season, but he does bring that element of speed. When you look at his rate stats, when he has gotten opportunities, he has made the most of those. So I do think that if Sean McVay, like you said, wants it back in this offense, I think that he wants it back for a specific reason. And that specific reason is bringing different elements. Like we talk about baseball, you can't have all your bullpen pieces throwing 100 miles per hour, right? You need some guys that can throw splitters, changeups, sliders, give you different looks. So I think the fact that he can give you a different look definitely helps. I mean, I wouldn't be against the Rams going out there and drafting a receiver like Isaiah Bond out of Texas, right?
No, me neither.
Another receiver, Jordan Whittington, possibly getting another opportunity. So I do like the depth of this receiver room, and you have to mention it. Look, Puka Nacua has been extremely injury prone throughout his entire career, dating all the way back to college. By the way, just real quick here, what did you make of Puka Nacua saying he wants to retire at 30?
Smart. I hope that he sticks to it because football's brutal, and that position in particular can be particularly brutal. But at the end of that, I'm like, yeah, let's see how you feel at 30, because somebody's going to show up with a bag of money. He's probably still going to be a pretty good player. He's probably still going to feel pretty good at that point. And I'm surprised that I still feel like this at 30. I'm going to go do it. I would bet against him retiring at 30, but that he's thinking like that, I think ultimately is probably a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's he's someone that when he goes on shows, he does make a lot of headlines. He says stuff, and like you love players like that actually say stuff. And if you're the Rams, I don't think you have a problem with it because you look at where he's at now, age-wise, he's a long way from 30. And the Rams, they just kind of made it clear what they do with receivers after 30 when they don't think they're productive. So if he's not productive, it's okay. go to Seattle, right? I mean, you play your college ball in Washington a little bit, that'll be your retirement home. So the Rams will be fine to move past you. I do think that it also kind of shows you that sense of urgency to have a great career while you're good. I mean, some players are like the Vince Carters of the world that will stay on the bench, right, and just collect checks till the end. Then you got the Kobe's of the world, right? They're like, right when they're done, they kind of know it. I think that Puka Nacua is one of those guys. I definitely like that. For me, you'd have to get me out the field in a body bag, playing till like in my 40s, right? But
yeah,
I mean,
let me ask you this.
I kind of like it. He wants to have 5 kids, man.
Yeah, well, I get that, and I get the idea of wanting to start a family and be there for your. And I admire that, but let me ask you: when you were in your early to mid 20s, 30 felt like a million years away. And then the next thing you know, you turn around and you're 30 and you're like, I feel exactly like I did when I was 25. And it's like, okay, I got lots of time left. And then the next day you're 40. And then 5 minutes after that, you're 50. It goes by fast and you still kind of feel sort of the same. So
yeah, that's a good point. Like, I mean, honestly, it's like non-related to football, like at all. Like, it really does feel like, man, you're an unk. But then you're like, dude, I don't feel that different, for like 10 years ago, whatever it may be. So he's probably going to feel the same as long as he conditions and he keeps his body right, which we know he is.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at how much leaner he was heading into this season, right?
And I always remember this. I don't know if this is biblical or whatever it is, but it's always kind of put it like, man plans, God laughs. You can make all the plans you want, and you probably should. Like, you need to be prepared for all these things, but who knows what's waiting for any of us 5 minutes from now, much less many, many years from now.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. I think that's the case for him. And I think for Puka Nacua, he's gonna probably be the guy that still remains, right? Like, Matthew Stafford will be gone at some point. Matthew Stafford will move on, and then who will it be? It'll be Puka Nacua's organization. He will be the face of this franchise, depending on the kind of quarterback that you get. So I think he's so popular with the fans. He's so popular with his teammates. He kind of embodies what Rams culture is in 2025. So yeah, I mean, he's going to be the guy for a good stretch.
He will be, and I'm comfortable with that because he's tough, because he's good, because he's competitive, because he wants to win, all of the great things. The only thing that I might change a little bit from what you said, D-Mac, is I don't know if anybody is the face other than Sean McVay moving forward. That as long as he's here, as long as he's the one that's putting the game plans together and he's the one that's collaborating to pick the players and free agency and just getting the pieces that he needs, I think the Rams are always going to have a guy that's the guy you're going to get. Like you mentioned, there was Gurley, there was Donald, there was Goff, there's Stafford, there's Kupp, there's all these Andrew Whitworth. Like, there are these great guys that are terrific players. But the one consistent through this success, the only person that's been here through all of that is Sean McVay. And as long as he's still here, I think everything else kind of slots in right behind that. The players obviously wildly important, but nothing, all the professional sports, the one where the coach has the greatest impact is in the NFL, and they got one of the best. If they keep him around and keep him happy and he doesn't burn himself out and go to TV or whatever, we're going to be having good Locked On Rams segments and years for a while, as long as that guy's a part of it.
For sure. I think he's the one coach where the Rams team shop should sell like a jersey version. You know what his name is?
Maybe like a strap-on beard or something like
the
that.
Beard, maybe his tight little like sleeve right there. The way those little long sleeve he wears with like McVay on the back. And also too, what we don't know too is Travis, by the time Puka Nacua is 30, maybe they will have these torpedo gloves. I don't know if you saw this tweet right here. Look at those gloves right here. It's a tweet that says, breaking: Chargers wide receiver Quentin Johnson spotted practicing with the new torpedo receiver's glove. The team is hopeful the gloves will help him actually catch a pass or two. So maybe you'll start wearing those at some point, the torpedo gloves. But
you know how to push my buttons, because the torpedo bat thing, I'm like, come on, bro. Stop.
Oh, you're on the torpedo bat?
I'm not out on the torpedo bat. I'm just not in on the torpedo bat.
I want one for myself. I don't know why. I don't know what I'm going to do.
I would like to see more than a week's worth of information about this before everybody decides that baseball has been reinvented by a nerd from MIT who moved the sweet spot 2 inches. Let's let this play out.
It looks like a bowling pin. We'll see. You see someone say that Chris Taylor needs not a torpedo bat, but they need to put a T on home plate and give him the torpedo bat. So if you put a torpedo bat and give him the T, it'll be 2021 All-Stars Chris Taylor again, won't it?
Poor Chris. I like it's this. Remember that game when you were in first grade? One of these things is not like the other. And when you put the Dodger roster together, one of these things is not like the other, and it might be Chris Taylor.
Ouch. Hey, I still believe in you, Chris Taylor, if you're watching this show, and I got to walk by your locker. Still love you, my man. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. And for Travis and myself, until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.